YouTube, this is GSmaniamsmart here to do another brand new video for Gaming with GS. And today we're going to talk a little about Guild Wars 2 and summarize for you all the key points from the Reddit AMA that the ArenaNet developers were at on Wednesday, where people basically asked questions on Reddit, and I basically went through the 1,000 comment thread and picked out all the important bits that I think you'd find interesting. We have a lot of talk about raids here. We have a bit talk about legendaries, a little bit talk about some of the opinions on DPS meters, a little bit about fractals, PAX East, and a few other things. So if you're interested in the developer comments, if you're someone who isn't really on Reddit, then I think this video will be great for you. And if you're a big fan of Guild Wars 2 and a big fan of ArenaNet, then I think this is some pretty cool information. There isn't a lot in this AMA that's like, oh my god, you know, spoilers for future release or hints for future release, but there are a lot of cool little comments that, you know, if you're a fan of the game, if you're a fan of the franchise and the company, that you'll appreciate. And that's the main reason why I want to make these videos, because some of you may be as interested as I am in the company and in the game that you may, you know, find some of this really interesting. So that's the main goal behind this video also. So first of all, Mike O'Brien did talk about insider trading, and it seems like every single time there's a new patch, there's always something to do with insider trading. And it can be kind of annoying that you know, people who get early access to this type of content really just abuse it, and they don't really respect the NDA that they sign. If you're not sure what insider trading is, it's basically when people who are allowed to experience the future content at an earlier date, whether it be for testing, whether it be because you're a partner of the partner program and you get to, you know, see what's going on in the game so you can prepare your videos ahead of time or prepare your blog posts ahead of time. They basically get early access to the updates. And sometimes what happens, or pretty much every single time now we've had an update, pretty much what happens is sometimes some information will get leaked to the public, and right before the patch gets launched, people will buy a certain item off the trading post, tons of, because they know it's going to be valuable for the next patch. That's why it's called insider trading, because information is leaked, and you know, and developers can see it. Developers can see, okay, tomorrow's patch, we're going to have hardwood logs be a very valuable resource that everyone's gonna need for a specific recipe that's very popular. If a day before the patch, someone buys, I don't know, 5,000 hardwood logs, then they're gonna know, okay, some insider trading must have happened, because never anyone is buying 5,000 hardwood logs, but now one time out of the entire year someone's doing it right before the patch. Has to be insider trading. And most of the time they just change the recipes and they end up updating the recipes in a hot fix later in the day or the day after the patch. But quite frankly, in my opinion, I think it's just really messed up, and it's really screwed up how other people have to do this type of thing. You know, and it's not even so much that some people may get screwed over because they may have had a good prediction. It's not so much that they'll have to change the recipes. It's not so much that, you know, we have to wait because some recipes might be disabled. All of that I don't really care about. What I care about is that these people are getting a privilege to play content ahead of time because they're apparently, you know, a partner of the program, or because they're supposed to be trusted, or because they were trusted for testing. If you're given that trust, if you're given that privilege and that opportunity, then why would you do something to scrutinize that? Why would you do something to basically negate the entire reason why you were given an opportunity like that? Because you were trusted. Well, that completely negates that. You're not trusted anymore, and you're signing an NDA agreement. So learn what an NDA agreement is and learn what it means to sign an NDA. Otherwise, just give me the opportunity. I mean, people like me and a few other YouTubers who do Guild Wars are not part of the partner program yet, even though I've signed up for. I mean, I don't know, I've signed up a couple times now already. I still haven't been accepted to it. But people like me and people like a few other people, they deserve a chance too, you know? Some other people that are apparently supposed to be trusted, and they're getting the opportunity to, you know, get content early, and then they have to do something stupid like insider trading, you know? Obviously, you're not appreciating the fact that you're able to get early access, you know? It's just a shame that people still don't know what an NDA is. And a lot of these people are older people. They're already, you know, legal adults, and still they don't know how to behave like legal adults. So Goes to show you that this world is just messed up. Anyway, that's my little rant about insider trading. If you never heard of insider trading, that's basically what it is, and it pretty much is happening pretty much every time a new patch gets released. We also got some information on the Mac client. It's on its way. That's all we really got. It's still not ready for release. They're still testing it. They're still trying to fix some bugs, but soon the Mac client will be launched. Now, one of the big things a lot of people have been interested in is Mystic coin prices. Mystic coin prices have always been really high in value, and they are required for legendary crafting and some other luxury items to be crafted. And we were in a situation where leather prices were really high, and whether the new leather farm is impacting that in a positive way where leather prices are decreasing, I've not looked into it yet, but I imagine it should improve the situation. A lot of people are questioning, well, why don't you do the same thing with Mystic coins? Why don't we get a Mystic coin farm? And I can see the point where people want a Mystic coin farm to one degree, but I can also see why they shouldn't have a Mystic coin farm. They shouldn't have a Mystic coin farm because there are several ways to get Mystic coins in game. Some of the current events give you Mystic coins. Some of the, I believe, some of the dailies that you complete, the daily Mystic Forge one, you also get Mystic coins from that. So there are ways to get Mystic coins. You just have to, you know, put some effort into logging in on those days where Mystic Coin Daily is available, and you have to put some effort into doing those current events that actually give you Mystic coins. But it's also important to realize that Mystic coins are a valuable piece of item. They're not meant to be something that's super cheap that everyone buys. Yes, leather is problematic because leather is supposed to be something that is farmable everywhere, that is acquirable everywhere. That should not be sitting at 20, 30 silver per item. But Mystic coins, these are valuable items, and these are rare items that you can only get in a limited amount of ways, so they should be expensive. And this is pretty much what the developers have shared as well. They're saying that Mystic coins, everyone gets in a small amount, and a lot of people are selling them to people who need them to craft luxury items. So people who want Mystic coins will buy the Mystic coins even if they're at an expensive price. So because Mystic coins are increasing, it's okay because rich people will go ahead and buy them anyway, and they'll get richer from it anyway. The difference with leather is that leather, yes, was really high when it was supposed to be really low, but that was because people were hoarding the leather. People had tons of leather, but no one was selling it. That was the problem. Nobody wanted to sell the leather. They were just keeping it all for themselves. With Mystic coins, that's not so much the case. People are selling Mystic coins, and people are buying Mystic coins. Mystic coins are being traded the way they should be traded. Leather was not being traded the way it should have been traded. So that's their argument against that. That's the reason why they're not going to do anything about Mystic coin prices. So if you're someone who's been sitting and waiting on the fence for Mystic coin prices to lower in price, probably from an action from developers, it's not going to happen. They're going to just watch the Mystic coins. They're still going to keep an eye on it, but they have no plans to implement a method or a farm or any type of event that will give you a ton of ways to get them. There's supposed to be a limited ways to get them, and they like that. They're supposed to be expensive, and they like that. And if you want to get these Mystic coins for some luxury item that you want to craft, you're going to have to buy them at a higher price, and they like that as well. So that's the story with Mystic coins that we actually got an answer from one of the developers. Now, one of the things people are also talking a lot about still are DPS meters, and I can't believe people are still talking about this because I felt like we were past that already. We did get a lot of confirmations from developers that they don't like DPS meters and they don't want to implement them, and they probably won't ever release one in the game. Some people are still saying, though, that it's a good idea to have DPS meters. Isn't this why they brought the golems into the fractals and into the raids? They brought testing golems for you to see how much damage you do. So isn't that your DPS meter? I mean, that's the main reason why you want a DPS meter, to see if you are doing enough damage. If you want a DPS meter to point out other people that aren't doing enough damage, then that's not really helping. That's not really a positive reason to get a DPS meter, because all that's going to lead to is pointing fingers, arguments, hate, and pretty much fights and arguments just, and negativity. That's what that's going to lead to. A public DPS meter is not going to help the community at all. However, ArenaNet has said, since people are still talking about DPS meters, that third-party tools that collect and visualize combat data gathered from the game client, tools like that are okay. Anything else past that scope is not okay, and you'll be breaking the rules. So as long as there are third-party tools that collect and visualize combat data gathered from the client, if you want to somehow create a DPS meter off of that information, then that's okay. We also had some questions being asked about raids and whether there's going to be a practice mode available, if there's going to be an easy mode available. And developers basically said no, that's not going to happen. And the main reason why someone asked this question was because they said raids are not accessible. And I have a huge problem with that statement because raids have become so much more accessible. If you go on the Guild Wars 2 forums, if you go on Reddit, heck, if you even sit around in Lion's Arch, if you join any guild, if you just enter a raid where people are saying first-time raiders, there are a lot of people, whether it's in a guild, whether it's in forums, whether it's online, whether it's in raids that are doing it for the first time. There are a lot of people who are willing to help you. There are a lot of guides on YouTube that are showing you how to do these raids. There are a lot of resources online that show you how to do these raids. There should be no excuse for someone to say raids aren't accessible, because I feel like they've become a bit more accessible. Sure, from the very start when raids got released, about a year ago, maybe they weren't as accessible, because there was, there weren't as many guides for one. Also wasn't as huge of a raid community, so there weren't a lot of people who were willing to teach either. But now, after over a year of Heart of Thorns being out, raids are accessible and they have become more accessible. You just have to do some effort and put some effort in to find some people who want to teach you. The other day, I was doing the Glenna Escort raid with one of my friends, Christopher. He's never done the raid. I said, it's okay, let's just go into the raid. This is the easiest raid, and if you still haven't raided, I still encourage you, do the Glenna Escort raid first. It's the Stronghold of the Faithful, the first part of the raid. That's the easiest raid out of all the raid wings we have so far, and that's a great stepping stone. And I told my friend, let's just go in there. There'll probably be someone who just wants to help. You bet there was somebody that just joined our party because he wanted to help. He didn't need to do the raid. He already finished his raid. He already finished his raid for the week. He got all of his rewards ready. He had all of his achievements ready. The sole reason why he joined our raid, even though he read that we had first timers, was because he wanted to teach. So there are ways to learn these raids. Raids are accessible and people are willing to help. But if you don't want to put any effort into it, if you don't want to get your foot in the door and try at least, then you're not going to go anywhere. And if you want to base your opinion off of something that happened a year ago, then you're also not going to get anywhere. Maybe give it another try. Maybe try to see if some people are willing to help you. Maybe join a guild. Maybe search the forums. Raids are more accessible now. And this is coming from someone that said raids weren't accessible. I remember about a year ago, I made a video that said, hey, raids aren't really accessible. And I remember saying that because I remember joining a raid and people were raging at us because we didn't know what we were doing. But now that's gone. The raiding community has gotten a bit better, at least in my experiences. I know there's always going to be some people who have terrible experiences, and I completely understand that. But in my opinion, I think raiding has become a bit more accessible. So those are just my 2 cents. And that's also why the developers have said they're not going to make practice raids. They're not going to make easy mode raids. They're going to make the raids that are at the difficulty they want them to be. And if you want to do them, then you're going to have to work together with your team. If you don't like that idea, then do fractals. Fractals are a great stepping stone to raids, as I said in the last video. Fractals are difficult content that will help you learn your class, that will help you learn to play with your teammates, that will help you coordinate with your team, and that will help you to learn the mechanics of the game, such as dodging, such as countering, such as using your skills to your advantage against, certain conditions, cleansing them, boon stripping. All that is available in fractals, and it's a great stepping stone to raids. So there are a lot of ways you can prepare for raids. The next developer comment we had, and this was actually a question someone asked, if they ever get inspiration from other games. And I thought this was really cool. One of the developers said that they get inspirations from games like Dark Souls, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy XIV, and even World of Warcraft. They get inspiration from all these games to do fractals, to do raids, to implement anything into the game. And I think that's really cool because a lot of times you'll see certain developers not really care about any other game and not really play any other games, and they're so close-minded to their own way of doing things that they don't want to take ideas from other games. I'm glad to see that we have a developer team that is able to look at other games and is able to say, okay, we like what this game did. Let's see if we can use this and maybe make it our own style. I really like that. And I loved Kingdom Hearts. I loved the Final Fantasy franchise. And I like certain parts of World of Warcraft. Another question we had was about vertical gear progression. Now, a lot of times, more than not, I get a lot of comments on the channel here asking, especially on those 2 videos that I made. One of the 2 popular videos on my channel are the level 80 and beyond guide and the beginner's guide to Guild Wars 2. One of the most popular questions I get on there is, why does Guild Wars 2 not have gear progression? Once you get your ascended gear, you have max gear. A lot of people don't like that. Some people like that. But I think it's actually a good thing that Guild Wars 2 doesn't have vertical gear progression. Mainly because, one, it's the old way of doing things. Every other MMO is gonna say, okay, farm for this gear, and then here's the next best gear. Farm for that gear, here's the next best gear. Craft the gear, here's the next best gear. And while some people may like that traditional style, some people find it very frustrating, including myself, because I used to be in a position where at one point I would get the top gear in a game, and then literally a week later, another gear set comes out, which is much better. And then you have to spend a whole ton of time getting that next piece of top gear, because then you won't really be powerful as everyone else is. And not only that, but it also leaves less room for horizontal progression through your character, or even a bit of vertical progression through your character, but not through gear, through other ways, such as mastery, such as skills. Right now, the mastery system that we have, the mastery tracks that we are getting, this is the type of vertical progression, or some may call it horizontal progression, that we have in Guild Wars 2. And personally, I like that. I like that we're able to add things to our list of things to do, of how we can do them, to make our character more diverse, to make our character be able to do different things, such as gliding, such as using jumping mushrooms, such as using speed boost mushrooms, such as being able to basically shoot ourselves through these thermal things on the floor, such as having a fifth down state skill. Like, these things are really cool to have, and personally I would rather have these things than have another type of gear set that you'd have to farm for, that you'd have to craft. Obviously, legendary gear is a top gear that we have, but it's the same stat as ascended gear. And I think for people who want to get that top tier gear that's like the best in the game, that has, the most amount of effort put in, you have legendary gear and you have legendary weapons. And that alone already takes a lot of time, already takes a lot of effort, and already takes a lot of gold. So developers also said that they're not going to be increasing the gears. They're not going to make any new gear stats. I mean, they're not going to make any new, gear quality. You're going to stay with ascended gear. And they don't like vertical progression because of that very same reason. But the main reason why this question was asked was because they wanted to see if ascended gear is required for raids. And one of the developers said that ascended gear is not required for raids because some people have done the raids and completed the raids with exotics, with blues and greens even. And that goes to show you that raids are not based on gear. Raids are not even based on DPS. Sure, maybe some raids require a bit more DPS than others. And sure, maybe you may have to revolve your build around more DPS. But the whole idea with gear checking and making sure you have ascended and making sure you have this and that, all of that is just personal preference, and people do it because they feel like it makes such a big difference. The main factor in completing a raid is skill and knowing what the raid is about. If you know how the raid encounter goes, if you've cleared the raid encounter before, and if you understand your class and you know what your class can do, you know how to play your class towards its strengths and avoid its negatives and disadvantages, then you can complete the raid regardless of what gear you have. Now, obviously, if you have 0 gear or if you're wearing white gear, it's going to make a huge difference. But as long as you're running exotics, and according to developers, some people are cleared with blues and greens, but I really wouldn't try that, then you're okay. You're good to go. So that's another reason why gear progression is really important to developers, because people have cleared the raids with various amounts of gears, and they would rather focus on you using your skill to complete these raids. So for those of you who are looking for vertical gear progression, it's not really going to happen. Now, we had another comment about the Ascalonian mage tonics, and people were asking why those tonics got disabled and why those tonics don't really work anymore as the Kodan and as the Watch Night tonic. Apparently they're going to try to make a lot more of these tonics work like the Kodan and the Watch Night tonic, where you can become races, and they're trying to implement that same change to the Ascalonian mage tonics. So I'm really happy with these. I've mentioned this in previous videos. I'm really happy with these tonics that they're creating, because it allows us to play as another type of race without having to go through these huge fixes and finding out how to implement them in the story, finding out how to, find a racial city for them, how to find racial traits and skills for them. All of that you don't have to worry about. Just make a tonic and you can play potentially as a different race. So that's on their agenda. They're going to try to fix it for the Ascalon Mage tonic, and they're clearly going to try to make more of these tonics, because right now people love the Kodan and the Watch Night one. We also had some information on the new way of making legendaries. If you remember, back when Heart of Thorns first came out, legendaries were created around a very detailed collection. In fact, these legendary collections were very detailed that they even implemented some of the lore. They gave you very specific story steps, and it really felt like you were going on a quest. Now, I loved this system because it brought so much depth into the journey of creating a legendary. In fact, I have a little series on the channel, a little Guild Wars 2 series, where I'm actually creating Chuka and Champwa. I'm basically stuck at a point because I need tons of Elderwood logs, and I've just had other goals. I haven't really been on my ranger that much. I promise you, when I start working on my ranger, I'm probably going to continue that legendary quest. Right now, I've finished my elementalist. He's basically top gear, top everything. I'm trying to get the ascended gear on my guardian right now, and after my guardian, I'm going to focus on my ranger. So when I get to my ranger, we're definitely going to continue that series on the Chuka and Champwa. But a lot of people love that very detailed journey and that very detailed quest. Unfortunately, it took a lot of time to make, it took a lot of time to implement the changes, and it took a lot of work. And it was just a very slow process that would, in the end, slow down a lot of other stuff as well. So they changed the system to make it to make these quests more basic, to give more basic collections. And we've actually gotten some feedback from some of the developers that it's actually been a lot easier to make these legendaries, and they've actually had a lot more time now because of this change to actually do some other things and bring some other new content into the game. So it's good to see that they're actually able to, bring that time that they had on legendaries and apply that time to somewhere else to bring more great content into the game. And yes, we do lose some of the great story and some of the great content we have with legendaries, but if you really think about it, and you gotta be real with yourself here, the majority of the Guild Wars 2 population is not gonna go for legendaries. And if you think about it, even in that population where people are going for legendaries, only a portion of those people are going to go for a specific legendary. So it really isn't worth their time to, go for 6 months trying to implement some type of collection that's really detailed, and then only a few people are going to do it. So it's completely fine with me. Yes, I love the way they did it before, but if it helps them create more content for everyone to enjoy, then I'm just fine with that. Another comment from developers said that raids can still be fun to go in after they are cleared for the lore, for achievements, and for even getting some of the cinematic endings from the actual raid. In fact, in the newest raid, we were told that if you talk to Glenna, you can get some extra lore, you can do some of the achievements, and you can actually get the ending cinematic of that raid that's in Woodland Cascades. So if you're someone who feels like, okay, raids have a lot of story, I don't want to do raids, but I don't want to miss out on the story, don't be afraid to go into the raid after it's completed, because there are still ways to get achievements, there are still ways to learn about the story and learn about the lore, and you can still get some pretty cool information from these raids after they're completed. So I would definitely recommend you guys to, go into some of these raids after they're done, and it's a really cool experience, because it's basically like a whole new map. Even if you don't care about the lore, even if you don't care about the raids, go in there after the raid's done, and you can really explore. You can explore the raid to your heart's content. There's a lot of cool things you can find in there. Now, one of the more interesting questions that I saw was that someone asked if we're ever going to get a change to the world map, a drastic change. Because it's called a living story, someone asked if they're going to go back to Living World Season 1 where they made these huge changes to the world and players will be able to go through these changes. Now, this is something that I love, and one of the prime examples of this is ore. Now, because we've cleansed ore in the story, you would imagine that after you cleanse ore will look really beautiful again. But in reality, it's not. It looks like it hasn't been cleansed whenever you go into ore. And that's because those changes only happened within the story instance. So a lot of people have been asking, are we ever going to get a new ore map where, you know, the area looks greener, where it looks like it's been restored? And a lot of times developers have said no, they're not going to make that change because it ends up separating the population between ore that's been restored and not been restored, and it makes things very complicated as far as the map goes. They did say that they may make a new map of ore that'll be, you know, somewhere else in the world. Maybe that's a possibility, but they don't like the idea of changing the world map for different instances for different groups of populations. So that's one of the prime examples of how the world should have changed, but it actually didn't change. So someone asked if they're ever gonna do something like that in future seasons or in season 3. And here's the quote that we got from one of the developers, which I do have a few opinions on. With season 2 and season 3, we've established that different zones take place at different moments in history. With that, we have a lot of ability to take the world through dramatic changes without having to remove content from the game to do it. Who knows, everything is fair game, but I'll say that we're enjoying how much headroom we have to tell epic story within new content. Now, what this is basically saying to me is that they like the way they're doing things now, where changes are just made within these instances, and if you go out into the real world again, outside these instances, that everything is going to look the same again. Now, personally, I don't like the idea. I like how things can change in the real world. You know, how Lion's Arch got destroyed and how it got rebuilt again. I like those things. Those are some really unique things of Guild Wars 2, and I like those things. I wish they would implement those things a bit more, and I wish they would actually, you know, take the risk and, you know, destroy some stuff or make some new things happen and build some new things. Have the world change as it should, because we're in a living story, we're in a living world. Have the world change. That would be really awesome. So in my opinion, I would love to see more of that type of stuff, but their argument is that they don't want to run into a situation where it's like Living World Season 1, where things will change and then no one will be able to go back to them. And I can understand that too. I wish there was a way to have the best of both worlds, obviously, and I'm sure everyone wants the best of both worlds, but it seems like that they're not able to do that yet. So personally, I would like to see more changes in the actual world, but I can understand how that can be kind of frustrating for other players who may not have been around that time, or if you may want to go back to that content, you can't go back to that content because they've restored the map now or something like that. But if they can find a way to actually accomplish that, if the technology is available to have the best of both worlds there, then that would be really cool. Let me know your opinions in the comments about that though, because I'm curious. Would you rather have a game where a lot of changes are made within instances, or would you rather have a game where a lot of changes are made outside so you actually feel like the world is changing around you? Really curious to see what you guys think. Another question we have from someone is whether developers are actually reading the forums or actually reading Reddit, and whether it's worth giving feedback. And the only reason why I'm including this into the video because I think it is important for you guys to give feedback to developers. One of the developers said that they do read the forums and they do read Reddit every single day. They in fact have specific people who are assigned to forums to read them and, you know, get feedback and monitor them. It is important that you take the opportunity to give feedback. Some of the changes that I've made in the game have actually been, you know, something that has been brought up by the players. One of the big things that's up right now on the Reddit page, and even has several topics in the official forums, is the fact that Living World Season 3 tokens, the currencies that you get from each map, you have to carry them in your bags. There's no place for them in your wallet. Dungeon tokens, you were able to put them in your wallet, so why can't we have these new map currencies such as petrified wood, winter berries, the shards? Why can't those be currencies in your wallet as well? And a lot of people have been complaining about that, and they want ArenaNet to make a change that this type of currency can be in your wallet. And I won't be surprised at all if in the next patch or in the next feature pack, patch, they're actually going to be able to implement that change where all the currencies you get from the new maps are going to be stored within your wallet. And this is something that players have given feedback on. Players have created topics around, have created threads on Reddit, on the forums, and have basically emailed developers and told them they wanted to have this change, and soon enough they'll probably implement this change. So I do encourage you, if you have really cool ideas, if you have really cool fixes, if you found some bugs, if you have anything that you want the developers to know, or something that you may want to see in the game, don't be afraid or don't be discouraged to post in the forums, to post on Reddit, to send them an email, because they read these things and they do take them into consideration. And the last piece of news that we have, the last comment that we have from developers that I thought was really important, is a sad piece of news that ArenaNet will not be going to PAX East. So people are saying, okay, that means there's probably not going to be a new expansion this year. They probably don't have anything big to reveal. But a lot of people who like going to PAX East are going to be disappointed because ArenaNet's not going to be there. In fact, one of my friends, he actually got his tickets to go to PAX East, and he thought ArenaNet was going to be there. But I actually broke the news to him yesterday saying that they're not going to be there, and he got really disappointed. And they've been present at a lot of the PAXs in the past couple of years, but it seems like they're not going to be here for this year. Like I said, that could mean because they don't have anything big to showcase or deliver or, you know, show off. So maybe that means the expansion is not as close as some people may think. You know, a lot of people said, oh, next year a new expansion is coming out. But if you think about it, they probably would have went to PAX East then if they had something to reveal. Maybe they don't have anything to reveal. Maybe they want to keep it a top secret and just, you know, right before it's launching, right before it's about to go out, they want to reveal it. But that would be a poor idea because a lot of the positive changes they made to the elite specializations came because they announced it so early and people were able to give feedback. So I'm more likely to lean to the fact that there's nothing huge ready to be released yet. There's no huge expansion even close to ready. So I think that's a good thing because I think it's still a bit too soon for another expansion. Maybe they can announce it sometime around August. Maybe I think that'd be a proper time to announce for an expansion and maybe release it next year. So those are pretty much all the Reddit comments that we had. Those are pretty much all the important developer comments that I thought were really cool, were really important, or had some good information that entertained me and, you know, I would have liked to know about. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, go ahead and leave a like at the bottom of the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe. We have plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content on our channel. We've already gone over all the patch changes. I already have a guide on the Thermanova reactor rework. And now here's the AMA video. The next video I'm going to release is the leather farm, so be prepared for that. And after the leather farm, I'm probably going to release a video on the giveaway we're doing. Then we're going to have a video on Lake Doric, give you an explanation of the map, what you can do in there. And then we're probably going to have a video on the story, a recap of the story. So stay tuned for that. I'm really liking the story so far. I think it's really well done. I think I'm about halfway through it, maybe 3/4 of the way through it. I'm in Lake Doric right now. I have to fill up this giant green bar by completing a bunch of events. I don't know how far along that is, but so far I'm loving the new map. A lot of cool stuff to do in it, and the story is just really great. So I'll definitely give you more explanation, more details, and more opinions and impressions in the actual story video. But if you do want to see the background footage, which is actually of me playing the story, if you want to see that full entire footage, if you want to see my commentary, if you want to hear me talk about it, give my impressions, I do have that footage on Patreon. As long as you're a $3 plus donator, you get to have that extra bonus content. We do post extra bonus content on the Patreon page, and you'll also get bonus entries to the giveaway. So if you want to check that out, link is in the description, and as well as a card on the top right hand corner of the screen to donate to Patreon. Would really appreciate the support. But you never have to do that. You can just come here, like the video, watch the video, subscribe, and that's all the support. That's really appreciated as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you want to check out the vlogging channel, tutorials channel, advice channel, music channel, links are in the description as well as in the end screen. That's pretty much it. Thank you for watching as always. And this is GSmaniamsmart. And I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.